What if I told you that there's one music production technique that will help you to overcome creative blocks, sound more original, and finish music 10 times easier and faster? Sounds too good to be true, right? But I coached dozens of producers and 90% are using this technique wrong. And it's all about using reference tracks, but in the right way. Listen to the track idea I created based on the reference. So first the reference. And now my track. So even though I almost stole the idea, my track still sounds unique and original. So this is what we're going to cover today. How to recreate ideas from your favorite tracks, how to sound original without being original, mindset and workflow tips to stay creative, avoid burnout, and finish tracks faster, and full breakdown of every element in the track you heard in the intro. So you see all techniques in action. All right, step number one is to analyze the reference. You can do this in your mind or write it down. Import the reference into your DAW and think about the elements you like in it. I wanted to steal all main elements from the track: kick, bass, lead, and drums, but with a few different tweaks. Think about what you like about these sounds specifically. So if we listen to the reference a little bit more close, I want to break down how I was thinking and what I liked about the track. So the biggest thing that I liked was the lead sound. That was the thing that sold it to me. Really cool, a little bit hypnotic, kind of simple tech house lead. I also really liked the punchy character of the kick, the bass, and the drums. So I was just like, hey, let me steal that for my track. Vocal, not really, not my favorite part. I would maybe do something different. And if we go here to the beginning, just to listen to the drums. I love the character, so nice, so punchy. So in your mind, you just want to be a little bit more specific. So what are we trying to steal from the idea to create in your track? So one quick mindset tip when picking references: you want to pick a track that you love and that gives you emotions. If you get, I want to steal this idea, that's the right reference track. And also make sure it's close to the style of music that you're making, because it will make the production process more easy and enjoyable, because it doesn't make any sense to recreate the tracks that is like 50% of what you want to produce. The next thing before we start creating the idea is we want to analyze the reference. And I love using RealPhones because it gives me a good understanding how the mix translates onto different systems. And also by doing that, I can understand which samples to pick so I can get closer to the reference, because a lot of times what you're listening on headphones is not like 100% correct. It may sound very different depending on speakers. So to give you this example, let's listen to the reference first, just with the headphones that I use right now, and then we'll go and I'll run it through different speakers and club system as well. Let's go here. Now, one speaker. So there's way more boominess that I didn't hear so much in my headphones because they don't have a lot of bass. And you can see different systems, they give you a bit different focus. So this one is on clarity, but I can go like, let's say I check the deep mix. The mid speakers, they are good with translating the mids and so on. Right, so I'm not going to go too deep in that, just going to show you this system and the club system, which is the most important one because we are making club music at the end of the day. Very important plugin to have if you're producing a lot on headphones like I do, even though I have speakers. The next thing that we want to use is going to be some sort of oscilloscope. I use a plugin called Sub Ninja, but you can use any. This one is just really cool for analyzing the bass line. So this is especially useful when I am recreating the kick and the bass. If you look at the shape of the kick and the bass, and if you look at the shape of my track, they are indeed close, but I made mine a little bit different, and that's okay. We are using this thing to visually see what you are hearing, because sometimes if your ears are not very trained, you might not like fully connect what you see and what you hear. So we can go here and have a look at everything. And then my track. A bit different, but having, for example, the kick here and comparing that to the reference can give you a good understanding of the whole thing. So now let's start creating the idea for the track. The way that I create ideas is usually I would select the most intense part, the drop, my favorite part, and I would loop it. Ideally, you want to do 16 bars. It's okay if you do like 8 here, but then just make sure that you make the longer loop a little bit after that, as that's going to make the arrangement process easier. I'm going to talk about that at the end of the video as well. So you loop here and you start creating just like I did here, okay? And this is how I like creating my ideas. I start with kick and bass as it's the foundation to any club track. It's a lot easier to put instruments in the mix when I have a solid low end groove. So let me go step by step and just play the kick and the bass, then the drums, and then the leads, and then you will understand why I'm doing it this way. So let's say we just have a kick and the bass. Like, it's already making me want to move, want to nod my head, you know, dance to the beat. Is just, I love it, right? The next thing after that is drums. Kick, bass, and drums, this is the foundation to your groove in the track. And this is why I do it this way. That's it. Like, I can dance to this alone, like in the club, I swear. So after you do the groove, we could call this like a rhythm machine. We have some like the engine, the kick, bass, and drums are the engine of the track. Then you can start putting something on top, which is going to be the lead. And this is the last thing that I will put in the mix because it's a lot easier, right? So let's say we have the lead sound. Let's remove the vocal. Even if I remove the drums, for example, you can go and do the leads after the kick and the bass. So experiment with the order. This is just something that works for me, but do what works for you. Just giving you the tools to work with. Okay, now I want to break down the full workflow so you understand my thinking process and so that you can really easily come up with original ideas based on the references that you're using for your tracks. So let's have a look at 2 kicks. On the left one, you can see the kick from the reference, and on the right, you can see my kick. I liked the tight and punchy kick in the reference, but I ended up with a different one, like more like old school drum machine kick. If we play here in the beginning, let's have a look. Let's play in the club. Really nice, right? This is mine. It's a little bit more thumpy, more like a chest kick. We could even say it's a little bit more muddy, but that's the character that I wanted. And the reason that I ended up with a different one, just because I couldn't find the same samples. There's no point of forcing it if you cannot replicate it. I'll talk about mindset tips also at the end of the video, have a full system for that. So yeah, that's something that I started with. The next thing is going to be the bass. So I made 2 variations for the bass line. The first one is sustained and the second one is rolling. The second one is more like in the reference, and they both give an interesting groove. So let me play you with and without the kick, and then you will understand how it impacts the groove and how it sounds with the lead. This is one, something that I felt like I want to do for the track based on the reference, and check with the kick. We can listen in real phones here as well. It's a bit different, but I like the groove. Second one is like this. Actually, all the notes should be rolling, but it's okay for now. And check with the lead how that impacts the idea. And the version that I did. So they both sound good, and you can see how I create my own variations to existing sounds, like when I'm recreating that. So you can first copy and then recreate, or just recreate and then as you get something done, you can experiment with that. The next thing, the bass sound design. For the sound design, I honestly just used the same bass line. I found a preset that was pretty similar. I just tweaked that a little bit, and I felt like there was no need to reinvent the wheel here. So if we listen to main, it's pretty much the same. Like, whoa, 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 this kind of vibe. Let's close the filter. Maybe go here. It might be a little bit more plucky, but then again, same idea, like the essence of idea I was able to capture. Now the most interesting part, and something that I want to share, is the drums. It was a bit tricky. I first tried copying, but I couldn't get the same sound. After a while, I decided to improvise and came up with a cool rhythm. It created a nice groove, and I didn't have to copy the reference too much. After that, I added the drums I liked, and everything sounded great. So let's break down this example. Go to the beginning. I just couldn't find this kind of clap, unfortunately. I really like it, but it is what it is. So if you listen to my drums, for example, the clap, it's very close, but it's a little bit more loose. In a good way, of course, in a good way. So just get as close as you can, because I was spending way too much time trying to find that perfect sample. Same with the hi-hats. I couldn't find the same sample, so I decided to go with. And there was this rhythm that made the biggest impact, because I was getting very frustrated. I just couldn't get that sound. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do my thing. So the shaker-like hi-hat and this, which is actually pretty similar to the reference. If you look here, it goes like like this. And then they also had a ride, and that was like pretty much it for the drum beat and the drum groove. And altogether, like, it sounds pretty good with the groove that I have, like with the kick. And because the kick is different, my drums should be a little bit different too, a little bit more loose. Everything sounds perfect, as you can hear. So I hope it gives you understanding how you can go about recreating, but at the same time being original, right? The lead. I spent a lot of time recreating the lead sound from the track. I ended up with my own version of it, which sounds awesome. This is a preset that I will be using in my next tracks. And this is one of the biggest benefits of creating your own version of sounds you like from the references. You'll end up with unique presets you actually use. And this is one of the problems, oftentimes I would just use presets from sample packs that I have, but they don't sound quite good. But with this track, it was a creative challenge. Okay, I don't have this preset. I found something similar in my preset bank, but honestly just sounded like crap. So it's like, okay, let me recreate that. So the rhythm, we'll talk about that. I just want to focus on the sound design first. I'll show you just a little bit because I don't want to go too deep in this. It's pretty... So it captured the essence of the idea that I had in reference, but at the same time, it sounded like me. Because what I didn't like in the reference, it's too wide, like it's too stereo, and it kind of kills the vibe a little bit and the groove. Let's listen in mono. So mine is... Sure, like I wasn't trying to copy 100%, but I think with the track, it's just, I love it. It sounds awesome. So you will practice your sound design skills a lot just by trying to recreate something. Let's talk about the groove of the lead, which is completely different. It added originality to my track and it sounds like me. I chose different note accents and sound design intuitively based on what sounded good. So pay close attention to the accents that we have on the lead in the reference. And now mine. It goes like this. Let's now summarize everything so you have a structured approach from A to Z. So by this point, you should understand the creative process and how to use the references the right way. So some important mindset tips that will help you even more. Big idea number one, you want to pick a reference and stick with this style. So you saw that in this example, I basically just recreated idea in my style. If you try to be original too early, you will have too many choices. And this is the problem why you are so stuck. Maybe you feel paralyzed, overwhelmed, not knowing what to do next with the track, what sounds to add and so on. And I saw this pattern a lot of times during the coaching calls I had with my clients. Every time we didn't have a plan for the track, we made very little progress. So for example, if you don't know what to do, like don't be surprised why you're not progressing on the track. After we implemented this strategy into the coaching session, some of my clients were able to make track arrangement in just 60 minutes, like a rough arrangement. Of course, it's not going to be with every single detail, but like the outline for the track. So this is very, very powerful. It's almost like you have a creative limitation, but you are using it to stick to a plan and have some sort of framework. Big idea number two, try to recreate the track as close as you can. If you can't get close, allow yourself to be creative. Create your own version of the sound. Choose different sounds and samples. Don't copy, but steal the essence of the track idea. And this is how you can be original without being original. And that's the point of this video. I created something cool from stealing the idea, but it doesn't sound like I stole the idea, which is like a funny, like weird part of it. To give you an example, every time I try to copy 100%, I get pissed and frustrated because I can't get the exact sound. I don't know what samples they're using and so on. Then I allow myself to go in a different direction and do how I want. And I get unique, awesome sound every time I do this. So don't go until the frustration point, because this is when you can lose the momentum and really focus too much on the mental part. You know, like your mind can sabotage you, which is not cool. So the moment you feel like you are spending too much on a certain sound, just pivot and try something else. I promise it will help you a lot. Big idea number three, once you've got a good sounding idea, you can experiment with your sounds if you want to. If it works, right? Maybe you don't need to do anything extra. And as you saw with specific elements, it will happen naturally as you produce a track. Ideas are going to flow into your mind. And the last one, use multiple reference tracks if you need more ideas. I suggest use one main reference that you stick to and two more if needed. For example, you take the big idea from the first, and from the other two, you can steal arrangement or mixing or sound design, anything that you want. Sometimes I only use one as it is all that is needed for the project, and this project is a good example. but feel free to play with that. So let's say that you have created this idea. What do you actually do next? How do you go from 8 or 16 bar loop? How do you arrange this quickly? And I have a full video for you which will teach you the effortless way of arranging, so you don't have to think, and you will exactly know how to go from the loop to full track. And you can check the video here or here. I always forget where it should be, so click on the video and it will help you a lot with arrangement.